I'm Cameron, and I'm here with Bennett from the BYU Tech Transfer Office. But first off, something I was really wanting to know is, what is the Technology Transfer Office?
Here at BYU Tech Transfer, what we do is we take all of the research that's being performed at the university, secure the intellectual property rights of that research, and then we seek opportunities to commercialize it, typically through the form of a license or assignment to an industry partner or to a startup. We really love student startups, so if students come in looking for technology they want to spin up onto a company, we try to make that happen as much as we can.
What is that benefit specifically for the university?
Yeah, so obviously there's the revenue, the upside that comes in from, royalties or from a buyout of the technology. But there's also the impact of the technology just being out in the world. Obviously here at BYU, we're very humanitarian focused in a lot of our research areas. And so getting the technology into the hands of people who can commercialize it ensures that that technology is going to have the intended impact in the world that the original researchers envisioned.
Basically, you have all of this knowledge, this information that's just sitting on shelves, and then you're just trying to get out there.
Yes.
Okay, that's really cool.
And the goal is to not have it sit on the shelf very long, right? Ideally, as the research is being performed, we would have people who are interested, who are looking at the research and just waiting for that, right time to pick it up and roll it into a company. And honestly, that tends to work best because if we have a short feedback loop between industry and the researchers, as they're doing the research, right, maybe the industry is changing or there's new emerging technologies that they need to be aware of. They can inform the researcher and help, maybe not necessarily direct the research, but inform what the critical points of the technology that's being researched will be for the industry.
What about is that turnover time from when this technology is researched to when it might get picked up by a client, a licensee?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the researcher and the specific subject that they're looking at. We'll have some researchers where they'll spend 10 years working on their research and developing technology and then handing that off to an industry partner. We have others, where it's very quick, where within a year they've developed a new piece of technology that can be handed off. But the thing that we focus on the most is, we're not dictating to researchers how much time they should be spending or how much effort should be going into that research. But when it is ready to be picked up in industry, we want that timeline to be as short as possible. Because the longer it sits on the shelf, the less it is worth just over time, right? A patent lasts about 20 years and industries change overnight, right? So if they develop something that's groundbreaking and then it sits on our shelf for 10 years, not quite so groundbreaking at that point.
So how does the Tech Transfer Office take that idea and actually process it so that you can get it out there? What's the development? How do you promote it, process it, whatever you would call it?
Yeah. So the general process would look like this. The researcher would disclose to our office their research along with any kind of prototypes, visuals, background information, industry context, just basically everything that they've been working for. And then we would take that, evaluate it. We typically try to secure the intellectual property with a patent. That's not always the case, right? We might use trademarks, trade secrets, copyright, just depending on what the actual technology is. But typically the patent is the route that we take as long as there is a significant chance of commercialization. Some technologies are harder to commercialize than others, but we want to give everything a fair chance. And then once we have the intellectual property secured, or at least that process started, we typically don't wait for the patents to issue. We'll create marketing materials. We start doing industry outreach to commercial entities that we think might be a good fit for the technology. And then I mentioned it earlier before, but we also love student startups. So if a student comes in, maybe they were doing some undergraduate research with the professor, and they say, hey, I'm aware of this technology, love the professor. I think that there's a good business that could be made here, then we want to entertain securing that license with the student and helping them get introduced to the resources we have here on campus to spin that company off. And there's so many resources on campus for students. I know this wasn't your question, but just some of those resources include, the Tech Transfer Office itself to acquire the rights to the IP that's being developed here at the university. You have the Rollins Center, which has validation and traction grants to get your business started. You have the Student Innovator of the Year competition, which provides prototyping money as well as award money for the companies that participate in it. I mean, there's so many resources, and those are just a few here locally on campus. You also have SBIR, STTR federal grants, which will give your company funding for high-risk technologies, which a lot of the technologies coming out, right, they're not 100% proven. There's a lot of good research behind it, a lot of good technical reasoning behind why this is a good product, but they're still relatively high risk. So we want to make all those connections for you and help you succeed.
That's a lot of exciting resources.
Yeah.
So it seems like basically you take care of kind of the legal sides, give them the backup there to get them out there so they don't have all these problems. And then there's tons of other people they could go to actually make this dream a reality.
Yes, exactly. And so we have all kinds of different types of founders, technical, business. So just because you may not have all the skills that are perfectly aligned to start a business on your own, we want to help you make the right connections so that you can either learn those skills or get connected with people who have those skills to make that company successful. And that's, a huge part of what we do, because we want your business to be successful, because typically the upside of our license agreements is contingent on you succeeding. If you fail, we fail. We're really invested in you succeeding.
So that kind of the symbiotic relationship. I love it.
Yes.
So what does the success look like for the Tech Transfer Office? What are some of your favorite success stories?
Yeah. So a success for us would look like, the technology comes in, we do all of our background work, we secure a license or an assignment of that technology to either a startup or a company. And then success for us is when that product starts selling, right? Or when that company gets acquired, right? And so typically that would result in, royalties coming into the university. And then those royalties, those monies that come in, are distributed back to the inventors and then to other places in the university as well. So like I said, the successes at technology transfer come from the technologies themselves and being successful in the industry.
I love it. Awesome. So kind of walk it back to here at BYU, right? So one of the things that I've heard a lot, right, is BYU is really big on undergraduate research. And you've mentioned this a lot. For students, a student startup is the best. What beyond reaching out to the office, right? What are some of the ways that students become involved? Like, what are the role of students at the Tech Transfer Office?
Yeah, so obviously we have student employees like Cameron here, right? He's doing a fantastic job. And we have some prototyping interns. We do some on-campus internships for students, typically looking at marketing or validation of technologies. Really, we just want students to look at us as an additional resource. Dave Brown, right, his background is in law, right? So if you have legal questions about contracts or technologies, right, he can help answer those questions. My background is in mechanical engineering and prototyping. So if you have prototyping questions, if you want to be connected with some of the suppliers in this area, I can help make those introductions. Adam, right, his background is in patent law specifically. So if you have your own idea, right, it doesn't have to necessarily be a technology developed at the university, but if you have your own idea, you can come talk to Adam. He can kind of walk you down the path of intellectual property and how to secure that yourself. And so we really want to be a resource to students. And again, right, those student startups, it is just a fantastic opportunity to take your own work ethic and then piggyback that on top of typically years of research that's been done by somebody here who has, how many more decades in industry than you do yourself. And so you get to take all of your get-go and gumption and hard work and pick up a piece of technology that is much more mature than typically some of your own ideas. And that's not to knock your own ideas, right? Definitely pursue your own things, your own dreams, your own products. But this can definitely give you a head start. And again, access to a lot of resources that you might not have access to if you're just trying to go it alone.
How does the Tech Transfer Office, in collaboration with students and with the faculty, achieve the aims of a BYU education?
Definitely try to involve students as much as possible. BYU has a big focus on undergraduate research and undergraduate teaching. And similarly, I feel like that's reflected in the office, where other tech transfer offices across the nation are maybe less willing to work with students, whereas we are very excited to work with students, right? And to take that risk on you as a student starting a company where you've maybe never done that before. And so I think that that's maybe one of the main things that sets us apart as a tech transfer office, is just our willingness to entertain entering into those licensing agreements with students themselves.
I love that. I think that's just one of the things that I really enjoy about BYU, is just the way that everyone is part of the community, and specifically the students are involved. Because I think it's true. I mean, there's a lot of development and growth happening in, just in the market here in Utah. The students here, they're the leaders, the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. And I'm just so excited that the Tech Transfer Office is really a way that people can move forward with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so speaking of the future, what are some of the exciting things in store for the Tech Transfer Office?
Yeah, so we've had a really big push over the last year with social media and marketing of the technologies. And so that is maybe not 100% new to BYU Tech Transfer, but it does have kind of a larger emphasis over the last year. We've seen tremendous increase in specifically our YouTube following. We started with around 0 subscribers. Now we're up to about 27,000, I think, at this point. So that's been really fun to see. The exposure has led to licensing deals, especially licensing deals with students. And so I think the future holds just more of that, right? I think the faster we can close the loop on technologies being ready to market and being introduced to market and utilizing the marketing tools that we have available now, I think that that's going to continue to be a focus, at least in my mind.
That's super exciting. Just bigger and better as we go forward.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks, Bennett. That's all the questions I have